Hello everybody, and welcome to Light Me, the ultimate light sniper toolkit for Maya. Okay, let's get right into the installation. Open the zip file that you've downloaded, and you will see these two files, LightMe folder and lightme.mod. On the Gumroad page for LightMe, scroll down a little bit until you see Install for Maya. Here you can copy the modules location, and I'll copy that. Or on a Mac, you can put it into your Maya/modules folder. So here I took these two files and I copied and pasted them into the user documents Maya modules folder. Restart Maya, go to Settings Preferences Plugin Manager, and here you will see you have loaded both the gem distance dimension and the lightme.py. Might as well do auto load also. Once you've done that, here on the bottom, you'll see LightMe for Maya plugin initialized. Now the LightMe for Maya plugin can be started many different ways. The first way is by right-clicking in the viewport and holding down the right-click button. Here you'll see light operations, and you have the option to add a light or to go to preferences. Right-click, light operations, add light. And here a light is added along with a gizmo. And then here in the bottom left corner you see LightMe is activated, and with the gizmo selected, move the gizmo around an object. Or if I select the light, you see move the light around the gizmo. Now if we select the light, you see the distance between the light and the gizmo is 5 units. And as I move the light around the gizmo, you see that number changes. And that's for reference, so you know the distance between the light and the gizmo. Now I'm going to open the preferences and have that here on the side so we can talk about the preferences as we navigate through the scene. Now LightMe has a main primary sniping button, and that's the L key. So I can be anywhere in the scene and just press the L key and that'll add a light. Now here in the outliner you can see the LightMe group. If I expand the group you can see the light and the gizmo. Now here in the default light type in the preferences, if I click the drop down, you can see I have different lights under different renderers. And these will be here depending on which renderer you have loaded. For example, if I go to my plugin manager and I load Redshift and I load RenderMan for Maya, now if I go to the LightMe preferences, under the drop down, you will now see all the lights available for Redshift as well as RenderMan for Maya, and also Octane is supported. So that means if I wanted a Redshift area light, I'll hit save, close. Now if I hit the L key to add a light, you'll see that now a Redshift light has been added. If I delete any of the lights or gizmos in the outliner here, the corresponding gizmo will be removed. If everything is removed, you'll see the user interface goes back to default. Okay, now here's where things get interesting. If I add an object and I right-click in the scene and add a light, now you will see that the gizmo is attached. If you see the circle here, that means that it is snapped to the platonic solid. Here on the top you can see that the platonic solid is made live, and now the gizmo is attached to that object. I can move the light around. The red dot represents the intersection of the ray onto the object, but the gizmo is now snapped to the object. Now if I add another light by deselecting and hitting the L key, second light is now attached. Now for each gizmo in the scene, a corresponding object is associated. For example, if I add a torus. Now the interesting part is, if I right-click on the torus, here we have the light operations, but now I can add the light to the torus, and now the light is snapped to the torus. And here, the P torus here is now selected and made live because I have the gizmo selected. But if I select the gizmo over here, now the platonic solid is made live. And so I can select individual gizmos and have it snap to each individual object. I'm going to delete the LightMe group, and from now on I'm going to try to use the L key. If I have nothing selected, and I hit the L key, it moves to the center of the scene. But if I hover my mouse over any object and hit the L key, it'll snap a light directly to that location. I have to deselect the gizmo, and then I could snipe right there. These are snapped individually to each of the objects. A global toggle snapping button is added here in the bottom left. If I select the gizmos, you can see there's a circle here. But if I hit this button, now the circle turns into a square. That means that the gizmos are no longer snapped to the objects. They're free to move anywhere. And if I hit the toggle button again, you'll see they snap right back to the nearest location on their corresponding objects. If I select any gizmo and hold the L key, I can now snipe to that location. I can even snap to a completely different object. And now these are associated to that object. If I select the gizmo and go to the attribute editor, on the transform node of the gizmo, under extra attributes, each gizmo gets an individual light snapping. So I can disable the light snapping for just that individual gizmo, whereas this one is still enabled, and this one is not enabled. And if I want to re-enable, I could select it, and then snap it back to an object again. Okay, let's go into the preferences. If I right-click and go to Preferences, here we have the preferences to select what kind of light is the default light type. So I'm just going to make it a V-Ray Rect light. Create light at origin. We'll always create a light at the origin if nothing is selected. If I deselect Create Light at Origin, it will always add a light to the nearest object. Initial min light distance, initial light scale, and gizmo size. So making this a value of 10, a light scale of 5, and an initial gizmo size of 5, and I hit save, and I create light, you'll see now that the light has scaled by 5 units. You'll see that the gizmo size is now 5. That's the local scale value of the locator node, right here. And the minimum light distance is now 10 units. So now 10 units distance between the light and the gizmo. I'm going to create my platonic solid and my torus. Make lights snappable. If I uncheck that, you'll see here the gizmo automatically has this light snapping turned off. Also the show distance line, intersection, distance number, and circles option. If I snipe a light over here, it always creates a group here. Now in the group node of LightMe, you will see the distance dimension ray which is attached. And if I add another light over here, now there's 2 distance dimension rays, one for each light. And these are the nodes here in the middle. You can see the precision, so 2 units. Now it's 5.08. 8 units. Now we have 5.07, 987, 642. The default is 6. I could also turn the individual markers off and on, such as the points, the intersections, the numbers, and the line. Everything still works, but the UI elements are turned off. I want to access them again, I just select the LightMe node. I can turn each of the UI elements on or off, and you can see the distance value is for reference. Now the distance value is the distance between the gizmo and the light, not the intersection. But the UI drawable size multiplier is the size of the UI elements here, such as the green dots and the red dots. So if I turn that to a value of 5 and hit save, now you can see that the dots are huge. Snappable gizmos. This is a global toggling here down at the bottom, so if I select that off, now all of the global toggle is off. The next one is auto snap toggle on gizmos on. Now if I turn snapping off and move this off, if I click on, you'll see it automatically snaps back. But with this option off, if I turn snapping off and turn it back on, it doesn't auto snap. You have to move the gizmo back. The viewport overlay is the overlay here in the bottom left. So there's with it off, and I can turn it back on again, and it'll resume once I select an object. Okay, let's get into some more of the features. Again, I can hover over any part of the object and hit L, and it'll place an object down. Now, a couple of the options are duplicating the light. So I can duplicate lights. And now I have 2 lights with 2 gizmos. I can select the light or the gizmo to duplicate. Light options, duplicate light, and now I have another light. Another option is to track to target, and with that turned on, that'll add an additional offset which I can aim at. And you can see that the light aims in that direction. If I wanted to turn it off, I can either delete the object or go to the gizmo, right click, and just turn it off right there. The main functionality is to be able to snap lights to objects. So I can hover my mouse over here and hit the L key and snap to that side, or I can create a torus and hover over the torus over here and hit the L key and snap right there. I can right click on any object and see I can add light to the torus, or over here I can add light to the platonic solid, and it'll add the lights accordingly. Okay, now let's do a demo scene. Here I have this bag, and let's do some lighting. I'm going to create a camera here, and change some of the settings for V-Ray, and then I'll start the IPR rendering. Okay, and then I'll hover over the object and hit L for light. I'm going to make the light a lot bigger, go into my camera settings, and change some things such as the ISO, 640, shutter speed, 60, maybe the F number, let's do F5.6, or 2.8. And as you can see here, I'm able to move the light, and it'll target where it is. I can add another light here in the back. I'll hold the L key again here to snap a light right there. This is for the back light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this nice and long. And maybe make the color a little bluish. It's very easy to light objects because I could move the gizmo target anywhere on the object. Now, if you see the dots are a little too small in your scene, you can go to Preferences and increase the drawables, maybe to size 10. And then they'll appear there, so you can see the intersections. And it's that easy to light objects in Maya using LightMe. I can also hold the L key again to target and snipe the lights to that location exactly. Maybe I don't want that here on the back, maybe I want it here on the handle. Or I can move it closer. Now another interesting thing that I can do here with the plugin is I can use the distance dimension node here, which is an extra node that I created. I can just use that if I wanted to. For example, in the node editor, I can drag these 2 objects in here, hit tab, and add a gem distance dimension node. I can get the 2 transforms of any 2 shapes and connect the translate to the start point. Same thing, get the translate here and connect it to the end point. And now I have an interesting connection between these 2. An example of that is if I had a camera. Let me delete these connections, and then let's create a locator. But now what I could do for this camera is take the transform of the camera, put it into the start point, and then put the locator's transform into the end point, and then I'll turn down the size. I won't show the circles, but now you can see I have a distance from the camera to the locator object. And I can hook that up to the camera's enable depth of field into the specify focus distance. So you see this is 8.4, well that's going to be, if I go to other, if I get the distance value and connect it right here into the focus distance, now you see it's 8.403 and it's 8.4. So whenever I change the camera, the focus distance will always be focused on this position only. That's just a little technical part, but just some of the features that you can do with the gem distance node, instead of creating it yourself. Okay, thank you very much for watching the demonstration video of LightMe. I hope you enjoy the plugin. If you have any feature recommendations or you encounter any issues, please feel free to reach out to me and I will respond very quickly. Thank you very much.